Okay, in this video I'm going to follow up on the 15-inch nodule series because I think during that series I mentioned that I'm going to heat treat the material, right? So I've done that, but I haven't weighed it. Now I made a mistake in not weighing the original nodule, but I'm going to give you the weights of the debitage from the breakdown of that nodule in this video. Okay, so I've received at least one comment that the breakdown of that nodule was pretty poorly executed, which is fine. I didn't really spend much time doing it in a fancy or quote-unquote professional way. I just broke it down the easiest way I knew how, and it was using steel and aluminum tools. Okay, that's the most fun for me, using a technique that I don't really have to practice on or show any fancy skills with, you know what I'm saying, or show off in the video. In any case, I think a lot of the debitage is here, right? Most of it's here. Some of it went into the waste pile, especially the little flakes in the reduction of the final biface. So it's not going to be completely accurate, but it'll give you some idea of what I've got to work with. Okay, so I've got two different heat treats. This particular batch was the first batch with the experimental flakes, fairly thin. I like to use thin flakes for the experiment, so that I don't get a lot of blow-ups with large pieces. It doesn't always happen, but many times if you cook a large piece, it'll blow up and you're not going to get any benefit. Now, if you cook these or heat these really thin flakes, the chances of them breaking up or exploding, in other words, is less. So that's what I do. I test on thin flakes and relatively small thin flakes. This is one of the bigger ones here. Now, I took these up over 400, probably 410 degrees, something like that. This batch over here up to 350 degrees. Now, there is a slight color change and a change in the workability at 400 compared to 350. Okay, it's difficult to see, but this one on this side is more of a pinkish, in the video anyway. It looks more pink in coloration than this one. All right, some areas have a reddish or orangish tinge to them once you reach 400 degrees. Now, the workability does change at 350, so these are easier to work at 350 degrees than the raw state. The raw state is pretty miserable, although it can be worked raw if you like that sort of thing. But this is the easiest at 400 to work. That's what this point is made from, material heated to 400 degrees. I mentioned, I think, that I wanted to go back down to a lower heat because this might be a little bit too brittle. So I worked a little bit of this lower heat stuff off camera, and it's not as brittle, but it still has a lot of the characteristics of the raw stuff, which makes it difficult to flake with soft tools. It's easy with steel and copper, but the aluminum has a little bit of a hard time, and I would imagine that antler would as well. Okay, so there you go. I'm going to weigh these here now. I've got these in a bucket. This bucket does weigh some amount, but I'm going to subtract that at the very end. Okay, so I got a bathroom scale down here and a kitchen scale here. Now, the bathroom scale, when I weighed this bucket, it barely registers, right? It goes up to 1 pound, but when I put it on this scale, it's 2 pounds 7 ounces or something like that. So let's just get a more accurate weight here. All right, this is pounds and ounces. Yeah, 2 pounds 7 5/8 ounces. Grams. 1.12 kilograms. All right, now I won't do the, well, I don't think this will go up high enough to weigh that other batch at once. But we'll see. Let me dump this out. I think this will load up into this little bucket. We'll see. Now some of these flakes are tiny, right? But I sometimes utilize the very small ones. Okay, that's good enough. Now on the bathroom scale, let's see. The floor here is level enough to get an accurate, semi-accurate weight. Right? I stepped on it. It's accurate. This registers about 9 pounds. Yeah, I think you can see that. Just under 10 pounds for that. Now the original nodule weighed more than 10 pounds, obviously, because we're not weighing the biface. We're not weighing the small debitage off the biface final thinning. Right, so, but that gives you an idea of what I've got to work with, because I threw away all those little bitty flakes from the final thinning. Okay, so 10 pounds, right, plus 2 pounds, 12 pounds, 7 ounces, and 7 5/8 or whatever, is what I have to work with. So it's a pretty good amount. Now from that 12 pounds, let's say, the usual yield for points is 5 to 10% of that. So whatever that turns out to be. Let's say 10%, that's easy. 1.2 pounds is going to be the final yield in points from this. Okay, so let's get some, I've got some points here. Let's weigh a batch of various points and see what that comes out. I haven't tried this ahead of time, so I don't know what it's going to look like. But we'll see. Got a bunch of mid-range points that I could make out of these, you know, reasonable sized points that I can make from this debitage. And I'll throw in some bird points. See if I can get up to 1.2 pounds. That's only 3 ounces. All kinds of various points. It's still around 3 ounces. Let's see. I'm trying to, let's get it up to 4. I think I might have okay, that's 4 ounces. So times 3. Well, no. To get to a pound from 4 ounces is 4 times this amount right? So 4 times this amount in points is what I could expect, maybe a little bit more, if it's 10% yield, which is kind of high, right? So the maximum yield would be 4 batches like this of points, just to give you an idea. And the grams, 126 on this particular batch. All right, so I hope that gives you an idea. Now, this is a side note, I often get asked what is my favorite point type or material to work and that sort of thing. I typically answer that my favorite material is a heat treated, some kind of heat treat, right? A high quality heat treat. And other than that, if I go down the list, I think Georgetown, Flint, and Hornstone would be right underneath high quality heat treat. And then underneath the Georgetown and the Hornstone would be low quality heat treat. And then every other raw stone down. I think obsidian is in the middle as far as my preference on napping. I don't put obsidian at the top at all. Some people do because it's various reasons. A lot of it is very beautiful and that kind of thing. And it's easy to nap, right? And you can practice on glass, so there's an advantage there too. But as far as it goes with materials, a high quality heat treat's my favorite. Okay, and this comes pretty close. That last video where I was napping the debitage, this particular feel of heat treat is one of my favorites, even though it was kind of brittle and I was not able to punch out, or not punch out, but crunch out the notch the way I wanted to. It still worked very nicely. So this is one of my favorites so far in the heat treat category. All right, and the color as well. I like a tan or orange or a yellow. All right, now I get asked what is my favorite type of point. That's really hard for me to narrow down. I thought about that quite a bit, and I shot a video just before this yesterday, but I deleted it because I didn't like it, where I mentioned that my favorite style is actually a mid-range point, not a bird point or a large type. So I don't really like these large ones or these really small ones. If I had a preference, if I was going to choose a favorite, it wouldn't be within this category, even though this is one of my favorite bird points, or probably the favorite bird point is the Edwards. I have this in my logo because this is probably my favorite style in a bird point or in a true arrowhead. I don't prefer it as far as, if I just want to come in here and nap something out of enjoyment. I don't prefer this. I prefer a mid-range. Yeah, and I don't prefer a large knife either. I prefer a mid-range point like one of these. Average size Clovis. This is a Laguna point, or a Frio, a Langtree. I'm not sure exactly what that is. This is a Graham Cave, right? This range, this mid-range, between 2.5 to 3 inches long. Yeah, 3-inch maximum is my favorite as far as the size range. And I don't have a favorite within this category of size. I like them all, basically, as long as they're within this size range. They're easy to thin down for me, much easier to manipulate, hold on to. it's difficult to thin down something like this, just especially if it's raw, just because of the inability to hold it steady on many of these strikes. And indirect helps with that too, because there isn't much shock, and you don't need to hold it firmly. But if you're pressure flaking, it's a pain in the butt. But these pressure flake easily. You can indirect percussion these easily, in my view. You can shape them easily. You can easily find spalls of this size. They heat treat well in a spall state of this particular size range, like no more than 4 inches long and maybe a ½ inch thick. They heat treat well in that range. It's just on the edge of being not easily heat treatable, because if you get above that range, they tend to explode if they have internal moisture issues or something like that. So coming up with heat treat for something of this size is a little more dicey. It's another drawback for large points, and that's why a lot of people work raw stone when making larger points. It's because the heat treat's kind of dicey. Okay, anyway, so this mid-range gives me a large range of materials that I can get. You can purchase materials of this size fairly easily. You can heat treat easily. You can nap it easily. The preforms and the bifaces and all that are much easier in this range than they are of the large or the very small. So that would be my answer. I don't really have a favorite in this range. I just like this particular size range. Size itself. Okay. Now, I did nap some stuff off camera. I napped this on video yesterday. This is a heat treat piece with Jason Newman's technique of swiping these platforms, I created deliberate isolated platforms, and this is all with percussion. It's all done with percussion, and I'm going to go to indirect percussion to finish it out. So it's all direct percussion with swiping mainly, as far as removing flakes and isolated platforms. I deleted the video because I didn't like the way I was explaining things. But I'll get to it in another video as I get better with this technique. Okay, anyway, I'll give you a measurement on this. 6 1/4 by 2 1/4. And it was sometimes the heat treat material will break in very unfortunate ways, like right there, but I can eliminate these step fractures from the other side with indirect percussion fairly easily. Okay, so there's that. Now, in the last video I mentioned that I was going to nap a big tab, right? I had a big tab. Let's see. Let me get the other piece. In the last video I showed this one, right, with this break, and I had another tab in my hand on the other side, and I said I'm going to nap this tab. Well, I did nap it, and I broke that one too. And it was not because of a material failure, it was because I was being too aggressive. So this is the tip of it, right? So I was going to continue napping it, but I decided just to stop the video. I did video this one as well. Anyway, and this is a raw piece of tabular chert. Inconsistencies are in this stone. This has got concrete on this side, but this side was pretty good. But that's what I came up with. It'll still make a nice point. It's about 3 inches wide, 5 1/4 long. I can still make a nice point of it. out of it, but I think I'll heat treat it just because it's so much easier to predict the results. Okay, so there's that. It's getting kind of late. I'm not going to nap something on video tonight. I think I was going to discuss one more thing. Oh yeah, I got some new stone from a friend of mine, and I tried napping it raw. It seems kind of tough, but it has my favorite colors in it: the yellow, the orange, and the tan colors. So it should be pretty good. I might nap some of it raw on film. But probably most of this will be heat treated eventually. Okay. But yeah, Gary, if you're watching, thank you very much. This is very interesting stuff. I already started napping a little bit of it raw. Let's see. Yeah, I napped this just a little while ago. I blew off one of the barbs. And this is raw stone here. It's very easy to blow off barbs and delicate areas with raw stone. But I was just experimenting with the notching. This is a scalorn. It's very easy to modify it, and it'll still look like a scalorn. It can have very difficult notches or very simple notches. Okay. It'll still look right. Okay. So, but this is not this material. This is a darker material that I got from Gary that naps better in a raw state, and this is raw as well. And it's able to get thinned down fairly easily too, which is nice. Okay, but it's unpredictable. You see how I blew out that one side, and usually I wouldn't have trouble matching the notching from side to side, but this one I did have trouble, and it has to do with the raw stone, and you have to get used to using raw stone. Okay. But this is going to be exciting for me because it has variations in color. Something I've been looking for a while. Some of it is pretty gnarly, but it does have the variations in color. So I'll be napping this coming up as well. Trying to find a good piece where it shows a lot of color variation. Yeah, not having much luck. Let's see. Because these are not flakes yet, but you can see that there are some color variations in this stuff. It's pretty good. Okay. All right, I think that's it. I got a bunch of stuff. Oh yeah, okay, here we go. As I was using the aluminum billet, I said to myself, I wonder if this flat technique, using a flat on a billet, will work with Hammerstone of this sort. I know it works with Hammerstone of the round variety, but elongated Hammerstone, you know, to hit a platform with a swipe, an isolated platform with a flat and a swipe hit, does it work with Hammerstones of this type? Right? Because if you get the same size in aluminum and Hammerstone, they're about the same weight, which is kind of cool. All right, so I tried it with this particular Hammerstone. This is a medium grade. I don't know what material that is. It's a medium grade Hammerstone, which means it's not very soft and not very hard. It's right in between. What I did was I cracked a river cobble. That's what it normally looks when you crack it, and then ground down the face of this to be flat, and then started using it. And I use it on the raw piece. Where is it? I use it on this raw piece, and I ended up damaging the Hammerstone quite a bit just on that one piece. And I tried various stones. Right? Just barely tried these, and they seem to work just the same way as this one. They're the same material, it looks like. But yeah, I just cracked them in half, or cracked them with a hammer, and it presents a fairly flat face. Alright, so do they work? Yeah, they work, but they get damaged very fast. So I don't see an advantage to doing productivity work with these. I see more of an advantage with a rounder stone. These get damaged extremely easily. I don't see an advantage using this type of stuff. This elongated medium grade Hammerstone stuff. Now, I have used this medium grade Hammerstone stuff in the round form. I would use it more in this capacity with the rounded surface, like this, instead of like this, because it gets damaged very quickly, and you end up with a rounded surface anyway very quickly. It's hard to maintain that flat face. So if they were using flat faces, they were probably using it on a rounded stone, which is pretty evident from the archaeological record. Let's see. Yeah, you can use a flat face on one of these too. This is a medium grade as well, but I use this as an abrader and not as a hammerstone. And I get flat faces and even concave faces on my abo tools. So I do use a flat on my abo tools. Okay. Enough discussion on that. I'll demonstrate it. It'll be better. All right. Okay, that's it.